Okay.
All right. We're all good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, good afternoon again, everyone. Um, Welcome to our last meeting of the year. We've done a lot this year. We have a lot to discuss today, but we're going to go ahead and get started right into the meeting. And we have a special guest, Miss Annalise Kinney, is here with us to kind of share some of her work with the Maryland Sea Grant. Just a little bit about Annalise. She's the Assistant Director for Communications at Maryland Sea Grant, which is an organization administered by the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences, also known as UMSES, that funds research and provides outreach and education about the Chesapeake Bay and Maryland's coastal systems. She has a bachelor's degree in biology from St. Mary's College of Maryland and a master's degree in science writing from Johns Hopkins University. Before joining Maryland Sea Grant in 2023, Annalise was Publications and Design Manager at the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. At Maryland Sea Grant, she leads a team of science communicators who inform about Sea Grant's work and priorities in the marine and coastal sciences. So now I want to turn it over to Ms. Kinney, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Jabari. And I'm here partially thanks to Jabari's invitation. He's a member of Maryland Sea Grant's External Advisory Board. So he attended some presentations last week and invited me to take my show on the road here. Thank you all for having me. A little more about Maryland Sea Grant before I dive in. We're a federal state partnership program nested under UMSES, the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science. And our focus areas include healthy coastal ecosystems, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, resilient communities and economies, and environmental literacy and workforce development. And so clearly many of these priorities intersect with climate change and the effects of climate change. So our communicators work with all of that. I'll talk today about our team a little bit, our priorities, and then I'll get into a final slide with some things to think about as we're communicating about climate change. So I came on board about 6 months ago, still a little new, but I'm really looking forward to working with our team to making our publications and resources more timely, accessible, engaging, and useful for all of our audiences. Our team currently consists of myself as the lead, 2 science writers and digital specialists, and a contracted science communicator who works mainly in photo and video for some special projects. We are also currently hiring a graphic designer who will be on board in early 2024. So that's really exciting for us as well. And finally, we take on interns and graduate assistants, all paid. We currently have a communications intern over at Horn Point Lab on the Eastern Shore, helping with a student project, and a graduate assistant who's helping us with an archiving project. So lots of support there. Getting into our priorities here, I did write them out on the screen, but we develop products that inform about Maryland Sea Grant's activities in research, education, and outreach and extension. We also distribute science-based information broadly about coastal systems and science to improve scientific literacy and knowledge. And finally, this is always going on behind the background of our communications work. We're working to strengthen Maryland Sea Grant's reputation as a source of non-biased science-based information. So when I think about our products, I kind of group them into 3 buckets to keep everything organized. So we have our general audience products. I'll switch to the next slide over here. We have our general audience products, such as Chesapeake Quarterly, our website, and our social media channels. These are accessible for all audiences, written for all audiences, available to all who visit our website or pick up a handout from us. We also have what I call technical information products. So these are written and designed for more specialized audiences. Think brochures and reports, fact sheets. We have a suite of educational modules, and all of these are developed in cooperation with researchers, extension agents, educators, and all our Maryland Sea Grant staff who work on different projects. So there are rounds of review there in creating those projects, of course. And finally, the last bucket I group things into are organizational products. So these products represent Maryland Sea Grant in relation to the Sea Grant network and within the UMSES system. They include all kinds of reporting activities throughout the year. We have to report on our impacts and accomplishments, for example, every spring. And they also include a biennial report that you can find on our website. So that's kind of an outward-facing organizational product. We do have some big plans for 2024, so I wanted to cover a few more products in more detail looking forward, and I hope this gives you a sense of kind of the levels of effort behind some of the different communications products, and just what goes into shaping them. So I'll start with the Chesapeake Quarterly magazine. This was previously a print magazine. We, through the pandemic and for other reasons, we've been publishing Chesapeake Quarterly online 2 times a year. And so we plan to continue doing that in 2024. We'll be also adding a supplemental print edition of the feature story out to our print audience. We have 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers right now, and they haven't received anything from us in a while. So we're trying to re-engage them in that way. Just a plug to check out our recently published issue all about oyster aquaculture. It's on our website. And as a sneak peek into 2024, our next issue will focus on PFAS. So those forever chemicals, man-made chemicals that exist in the environment and are known to cause health issues. So we'll be tracking kind of where they are in Maryland, how they get into the environment, things like that. A few other projects and products to highlight here. We are getting into a website redesign over the next few years. No, I'm not changing slides. Sorry, I'm just, I have this up so you can see the magazine in the left corner, our website in the middle, just kind of an array of products. Yeah, thank you. We'll be updating our website with the goal of improving access to all of our resources across the board. So that's really it's a big team project for us to take on. We're starting by updating some of our educational modules that I mentioned. That'll be coming up for us. Social media, always a hot topic. Our science writers have been working really hard over the past year to boost content production for social media. So our channels highlight our accomplishments as well as more general science-based content about the Chesapeake Bay and coastal systems. So our goal with social media is to enable people to find us online and recognize us as an active voice in the conversation. And we also hope to connect with some younger and more diverse audiences there, especially students. And finally, as we've really staffed up over the past year, we're increasing our frequency of blog posts on a few of our blogs, which include fellowship experiences and on the Bay. One is about our research fellows and their experiences in that. And the other is more of a general Chesapeake Bay blog about the projects we're working on. And as we think about all of these products, we will be utilizing all this content to start an email newsletter in the new year. So those from DNR may know me as the newsletter person. It's a great regular touch point to reach out to people and let them know what's going on. And the idea is that it requires a little bit less effort because we are creating this content anyway. So we'll be like repackaging it for our audiences to take in. We have a subscriber list of a few hundred, and we hope to continue to grow that. So through all these products, our goal is to seek to engage diverse audiences. So we definitely have a suite of partners and stakeholders who have always been interested and involved in our work, but we're also looking to provide non-biased and science-based information to the communities who need it, some of whom may not have been involved in these conversations much in the past. We believe that science and science-based knowledge should be accessible and usable to all. So that's our goal in communicating. That wraps up the Sea Grant side of things. I wanted to give you a picture into what we do. I do have a final slide here to get into specifically communicating about climate change. So Jabari mentioned that I might consider talking about a few best practices when communicating about climate change. So here are a few for you. Some of them are general science communication kind of ideas that definitely apply to climate change. So first, how to move beyond impending doom and oversaturation with bad news or even good news. We're all oversaturated these days. Some suggestions here. Think about how to frame your story to be accessible and engaging to your audience. So when you get some information and you're looking to shape it into a communications product, you might think about what people are seeing and wondering about in the world. So who's looking into their backyard and seeing something and wondering about it, or reading something in the news and they need dots connected. Think about what people are actually interested in seeing. And also think about what people and organizations are doing, with that action verb doing very clearly highlighted. People like to read and learn about people. It's just part of being human. And action is also more motivating than lists of facts generally. So if you're trying to really engage an audience who may not, be knowledgeable about the science yet, you want to think about what's going on in the field, what the researchers are doing and scientists are doing. And that's what we try to do with a lot of our stories. Next, you all know this, but get the science right. You want to be sure to have researchers review your final products. That review phase is really, really important. And it's even a good idea to put your products in front of people who aren't researchers and don't know the science so they can read it and give you a test run. Get your teenage daughter to read it or something. Yeah, put in the time to get it right. Make sure everything is expressed clearly. Give those sources somewhere so people know it's backed in science. And my final note there is, we all know that sometimes science is messy and there's no clear answer. So science writers often struggle with expressing the uncertainty in science. When that uncertainty is there, you do want to realize it and explain why. And next, deliver the science at the right level for your audience. Determining your audience can be really challenging. We definitely face that challenge at Maryland Sea Grant because we're interfacing with a lot of different audiences throughout the state. But it's definitely necessary because you can target that audience in the way you write or speak or design. You can also have multiple audiences and adjust those products accordingly. And the general rule that I've gone by in my communications positions is to write at a middle school level if you're aiming for a truly general audience. That way you're making your information accessible and readable for all. And my last note here, the old saying, show, don't tell. A lot of times this translates to using photos and videos. So I put up an image of a community that's experiencing some flooding. That may automatically connect your audience with the subject you're trying to talk about. Good high quality images are key. But also, aside from images, consider showing through interviews with experts or telling a story in a new way or an entertaining way, or using data visualization or tools like maps or anything interactive, story maps, for example, to reframe your story and kind of give it a new look that will draw people in. And the final question I wanted to consider here today is every agency's question, and that's how to get the word out with limited resources in terms of people, time, and money. First, I would suggest finding your niche. You can't do it all. So what is the commission's niche or this work group's niche? And once you find that, you will be able to connect the dots a little bit better to focus in on the partners and priorities that you need to focus on. It could be as easy as something the commission is specifically telling this work group to do, or it could be a specific need that has been observed and documented in the general public that you can really dial in on, a specific knowledge gap or literacy gap, for example. A couple more points here. Collaborate with partners. So consider where you can add your expertise into the equation. So I noticed right away in the event invite that you all represent a really broad range of organizations, which is a definite plus. Maybe you can use those connections to get your materials and information in front of larger audiences. A couple ideas on that. You could write a tip sheet or an article for an agency, directly put something into someone's hands that they can use without having to do it themselves. You could connect with people who could add your news to newsletters or fact sheets, kind of just redistribute or distribute it for you. And maybe also consider something like a collaboration with someone's graphic designer or videographer to co-create a cool product that you both could promote in your own way. And finally, something I say all the time, don't reinvent the wheel. You could take this kind of two ways. First, the same information can be packaged differently to reach different audiences. So if you're receiving some information and you're creating your communications products, maybe think about two different products you can create from this information to reach two different audiences or two different goals. That said, if you produce one awesome fact sheet, oftentimes it's way better to create one good, detailed, highly reviewed and vetted product rather than several mediocre products that kind of get to what you want. So if you produce one awesome fact sheet, send that link out to partners to use, include a blurb with that so they can easily pull that and drop it into their communications, and just connect with anyone who may want to use that product. It's sitting on your website or on someone's website in the back corner won't do any good, and it'll in the end be a waste of time. So you just want to, when you have something great, work out how to get it out there into the world. And yeah, those are my quick tips, and I'd love to talk more. Hopefully that gives some ideas, and just thank you for having me today. Susan.
I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, Annalise, I remember you now. You so kindly met with me. It was around this time of year. It's all coming back to me now. You were at DNR. I came to your office, and you helped me with photos. And then I think you were demonstrating how your newsletter worked and the app that you use, right?
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
That was before COVID. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
In fact, you were going somewhere south warm for Christmas. Where was that?
I think I was going to South Carolina or maybe.
Yeah. See, it's all coming back now.
Good. That's
So
awesome.
anyway, thank you for that. And nice to see you again and for coming to talk to us. I do have a question about what social media you're on.
Yeah, we are on Instagram is kind of our premier social media, I would say, but we're also on Facebook and Twitter, and we have a LinkedIn profile as well. So those are kind of our big ones. I would say in terms of engagement, it kind of depends on the audience again, but Instagram's usually where we focus our attention. So we're trying to pull the best photos and videos for Instagram, and then we reuse them to place on Facebook and Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question.
Sure.
Are you using AI to assist you in some of your posts?
We have not explored that. I think just because we have 2 science writers on staff who I think the writing world is perhaps sometimes a little reluctant to get into the AI use. But I do know staff at Maryland Sea Grant use AI, to draft first drafts, or, just get ideas, not necessarily do your work for you, but maybe to get you started down that path. So I think it would be something worth exploring. Just make sure those sources are all correct and backed up and not pulling from somewhere crazy.
Right.
And then I wondered how you measure success, because you can measure it by the number of clicks or the number of shares, but is there a way that you can measure whether it's impacting change or not? Whether people are taking action because of it?
Sure. At Sea Grant, as part of the network, we have to report on impacts and accomplishments each year, which will be coming up for us in the spring. So that's where we take all of our stats from throughout the year and we kind of put into a report for NOAA to use to grade us by. So for communications products, that section is full of those analytics with clicks and shares and likes. So we're looking across all of that. And I think everybody has to do a better job at collecting analytics and putting them somewhere so that you can pull them for your report in the end. But we do try to keep track of all of that, especially our 2 science writers who are our social media specialists. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Have you guys had discussions about anything with Twitter and or X, and if you're going to stay with it or if you're going to bail from that?
Yeah, we plan to take SEA's University of Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences lead on that. But as is, we're sticking with it. Like I said, we're often repurposing content we developed for Instagram and then taking it over to Twitter. So it's not a huge lift to continue sticking with Twitter unless signs point otherwise for us. But we haven't engaged with any of the other newer platforms that have come up yet. We kind of, sometimes we make an account to hold it in case it does catch on, but we're not too quick to jump onto the newest social media trend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Annalise, I have a question also. In the brief time that you've been with Maryland Sea Grant, do you have any examples of some, things that do work as opposed to things that really don't work very well? I guess probably more so social media, since those are, you can actually measure the metrics on social media. Do you have any examples of that?
It can be a little scattered, but we've found posts about students, and especially with photos of students doing things, do well. And that may be partially because, they and their peers are engaging with it more. Also because usually they're working with another lab. So we get a couple different people sharing that content out, a couple accounts sharing content out. But I would say students are a big highlight for us. So maybe highlighting young people in the climate change world would be a good tactic. Yeah, you generally have to be a little careful with students, make sure they are okay with having their images shared. But for us, I think it's inspirational to see what young people are doing in our field.
Okay, great. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Annalise, for this presentation. You've given us a lot of some great pointers, some things to consider. Might even have to recruit you for the group, but that's another story. But hopefully you all can see the connection here. And the reason why I wanted Annalise to present to us today was because there is a strong correlation with what we do and the work that they do, as far as educating and providing information to citizens of Maryland on climate change or the effects of climate change, more so Maryland Sea Grant, how it pertains to coastal areas primarily. And also we both like to, we have to seek to engage a diverse audience. So, and non-biased info, even though we might be a little biased towards our beliefs on climate change, but as far as the actual information that we get, it's a non-biased group. So again, thank you for that. If we have maybe one question that we can do that, but I know we have to move on. So Annalise, we'll probably be in touch with you soon, and probably, well, feel free to stay the rest of the meeting if you want. And we're going to go ahead and go straight through the meeting if there's no other questions from anyone else.
Thank you all. And yeah, I'll stick around. Thanks for the invite.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, well, I'm next on the agenda with an update of the annual report, which is going to be published tomorrow. ECO has been working on the formatting of the report. This year, for the first time, we are making the report accessible. So building in accessible features into the PDF, so low vision and blind readers, or even any reader that needs some additional help and has a reading program, will be able to interpret the document properly for them. So I'm really excited about that. That's a new change. We had proposed 3 recommendations for the report, and 2 were accepted and included. Our first 2, which were a significant public relations campaign, informational to engage the citizens of Maryland, that was included in the report, as well as the recommendation focused on Climate Education Week and codifying that as the first week of April through the legislature. So those were both included in the report. The recommendation that was not, that was focused on creating a mandatory education program. That's not to say that we can't revisit that and resubmit it for next year. And Jabari, I wasn't on the call, but maybe do you want to kind of give the feedback on that? What was what was the rationale behind not approving that, or questions or things like that we might need to discuss in upcoming meetings?
Yeah. So you mean from the last commission meeting, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was apparently some were actually kind of, I guess, concerned about trying to make something mandatory. And even though, I don't think we were really using that. Well, maybe we did use that terminology, but making certain things in the curriculum mandatory across the state can be a very touchy subject. It can get kind of political. One of the reasons was some felt that it could be a slippery slope. We require, I guess, school systems to teach about climate change or integrate into the curriculum, then other people are going to want other aspects and other, I guess, subject matters taught about in the schools as well. So that's the reason why, and it wasn't really enough votes. I think we missed it by maybe 1 vote or something.
Okay.
So we kind of, that's why we had to kind of put that to the side.
Yeah, we can definitely revisit that. Jennifer?
Right. So I was supporting all of those things at the commission meeting. And I would like to see us go back next year with those proposals again. But it was clear that there were a couple aspects that undercut our ability to pass them. So first of all, we did pass that we will have a recommendation for a public education campaign, but we had sought $10 million and they stripped the funding to zero. So there is no recommendation on dollar amount. So I think they would need to see a more specific plan of how we would envision that money going and exactly how that would be managed. So I think having for next year, more plans in place and to work with the various agencies to see what we could get using their existing budgets could be helpful. Secondly, Jabari is right. It was very close on the school thing, but ultimately the perception came down that it was a mandatory curriculum, and schools like to be very flexible and locally controlled. And so I think if we go back next year, that it's incredibly important for us to say that we will create a sample curriculum that they can use in their own areas and adapt to meet their local needs, so that we are giving them resources that they can use, but not being the big bad wolf telling them what to do in the local school systems. So that's where we fell short, was people felt like it was a bit big brothery, and that there are a lot of things that people are trying to shove into the curriculum. And there's a lot of sensitivity about DEI issues in the school boards right now. Some people like it and some people don't. And so it's become incredibly controversial. And so to stay out of controversy, I think we would do better to create a model curriculum that people could choose to adopt.
Susan and Jabari?
Yeah, I have a couple of follow-up things. We could do a request for information and try to put together a budget for a public campaign, public education campaign. And the other thing is, our recommendation about the curriculum was addressed to the General Assembly. And as we had a couple of legislators there, former legislators, who told us that basically the General Assembly does not get involved in curriculum at all. So I think we addressed it to the wrong people. So Jennifer, I love your idea about a model curriculum. Maybe we could get one county to become excited about it and start working with the school boards, maybe the whole state school board, because there certainly is an environmental curriculum in what is it called, the Blueprint for Maryland, that is required for all Maryland schools, but it doesn't specifically say anything about climate change. So I think that's all we need to do is, have that specifically added to that. So maybe
it was beyond, right, Susan, and it was beyond just a curriculum. It was the idea that there would be a climate plan for schools, so that it's not just what they would teach in a classroom, but it would be things like, why don't we put solar on roofs, and why are we using plastic for our sports fields instead of natural grass, and why are we serving things in so much meat in our cafeterias instead of other alternative proteins. So the idea, I think, for next year, I would like to see us to go for the full scale. And by the way, PG County has a great plan and sort of a great curriculum. So that might be a good place for us to start.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Jennifer, you pretty much addressed just about everything that I was going to mention. And it seemed like based on that meeting, the commission meeting, that some maybe were thinking we're trying to start new courses or something like that. That's kind of the feeling I get based on their comments, where in actuality, we can probably maybe change the wording to say more so integrate certain things about climate change within the curriculum, which is something totally different than adding on something to the curriculum. I think that was a big concern, is that we don't want to add on any more courses or add on any more, to the curriculum or so forth. Well, we don't necessarily need to add anything, because just like with Climate Education Week, most of the subjects that are being taught, we can implement topics about climate change, sustainability, and all that into the courses that already exist. So we're already teaching the students these things. How can we integrate certain examples, certain samples, certain problems that need to be solved within the current curriculum? That's pretty much how we maybe need to think about rewording it.
Well, that's great. And I took notes for all of that. And for future meetings, which we're going to talk about schedule at the end, Jabari, Susan, and I kind of had a discussion about we're going to have a standing item on our recommendations and we're going to circle back to them every meeting. We're going to have action items from them every meeting so that we're not necessarily doing our recommendations during the summer, but we're just finalizing them. We've been working on them all year. That way we have more time to collect the data and the backup that we need. And we can even strategize what kind of feedback we might get from the commissioners as we prepare them so that we've already addressed those. So we're going to make sure that we incorporate that as a standing agenda item and talk about at least one recommendation each time. From an action item standpoint on this one, I think we could. So Susan, you talked about a request for information on the budget for the education campaign. What did you mean by that?
We could put out a request for information from PR companies.
Oh, okay. So like a public notice. Is there any process for that?
There is. I've done it before. Yeah, there is. I mean, we can definitely do that and get some responses for would-be agencies who might be interested in having at least a part of the campaign. I mean, we would have to have a wish list and then send it out and give them a deadline. And then, then they can submit to us and then we can put together a thoughtful budget for the commissioners to look at, and maybe it'll pass muster if we do it that way.
Okay. How long do they need to reply, you think? How long do you put it out for?
I don't know. That's something we'll have to think about. We'll have to strategize about the whole thing and then write it up.
Yeah, as an action item for this meeting, I'd like folks to think about the different aspects you'd like to see, the different components you'd like to see in that education campaign. Think media, so we're talking broadcast, we're talking print, we're talking physical infrastructure. What are we thinking? Because those are the big dollar items, right? It's the actual like billboards and what are we going to use to get the message out? Development of the message is a small piece of the cost of this, unless we're doing huge commercials, and then in that case, you have to include some production value. Jennifer? Oh, I think you're muted.
One of the things that we were really excited, well, there are two things we were really excited about. One was having culturally competent individuals and teams work on it so that there would potentially be an RFP that a number of different groups could, win the ability to do some communication so that people who might have cultural competency in one particular demographic or another, or one language or another, would be doing communication so that it would be trusted messengers and not, just some, white male, straight PhD trying to talk to immigrants who don't speak English and are very different than them. That we need to have cultural competency and have people who have a lot of experience in those communities be part of those efforts and have materials that are made so that they will resonate in a trusted way. And the other thing that we talked about that people, I think, were very excited about was the idea that there would be navigators, that there would be a place where you could send an email or you could call and actually talk to a human to say, why would I want a heat pump and how would that work for me? Why would I want EV and how would that work for me? So basically to publicize the federal government and other subsidies and incentives that exist in such a way that people would take advantage of those incentives.
Okay.
If I may piggyback on that, the Office of People's Counsel has a really nice website showing what the federal incentives are for those things. I don't think it's in more than English though, but maybe we could work with them in some capacity, or at least use them as a model or a template or something. But take a look at their site. You can get to it from the climate change programs website. Here, I'll put the link in the chat.
Susan, that's a great idea. And Rewire also has some tremendous tools, but sometimes they're a little complex to understand also.
Yeah, I think part of the idea with the website, building a website for this, was to bring some of those individual tools together that are out there. There's so many. Honestly, it's hard for the average citizen to figure out which one they should even pay attention to, and there are almost too many resources. So, all right. So I've kept notes on all of this. Okay. All right. So again, action item, put a little thought into that and come to the next meeting with, more specifics in your mind about how that would work. And then we can kind of put that together into an RFP and at least, or request for information, and at least get that moving, because that's got some time that we need to build into it to allow folks to respond. Okay. All right, so that's it for the report. Jabari, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the teach-in.
Okay. And actually, I'll make it brief. I'll kind of right now get more so updates on where we are. So hopefully, all of you are at least somewhat familiar with what we're doing in this work group, is to create a climate education week in Maryland. So we've already sent a declaration, or draft, I guess, really it was a draft declaration, to the governor's office for that to be declared. We work as a team. By the way, the team consists of myself, Susan, Amy, Donald, and Chris Beck. I think that's everyone. I hope I'm not missing anybody. And so we already got some distribution lists together for the different boards and groups across the state of Maryland as far as education-wise. We're looking at the primary schools, well, yeah, yes, and also higher education. So we also have designed an email to be sent out. Was that sent out today, Amy? Okay, great. So that was actually sent out first time today. And we're going to continue to send these emails leading up to April. And again, Climate Education Week is actually the first week of April, April 1st to the 7th. That's what we're looking to do. And also a press release. We also have designed a press release to be sent out at some point. So the other new element that we've added is that we reached out to the Teacher of the Year, Mary Kay Connerton of Annapolis High School. She's actually Maryland's Teacher of the Year. And she agreed. She agreed to be a part of this campaign. It was Susan's idea originally, so I want to, thank you, Susan, for that great idea. We actually met with her, and she loved the idea. She has a lot of great ideas in her mind, that she gave us. One thing that we learned is that this is almost kind of another job, almost a part-time job for her. So Teacher of the Year is not just a title. She actually has all kinds of engagements and everything that she has to, well, not, I guess maybe have to, but is asked to attend. So she would be taking time from her schedule to work with us. And she's a health and wellness teacher, by the way, for those of you that don't know that. So we're going to, we're looking at trying to do a kickoff event during that week. And actually this year, the week, Monday is actually Easter Monday. So a lot of schools, a lot of students are out that day. And of course, we didn't want to try to do anything the day they get back. So we're looking at doing a kickoff event on April 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday, April 3rd, which will be at her high school, which is Annapolis High School. Probably during the class, the Secretary of the Environment hopefully will be able to attend. We'll have some press there maybe. Only thing is we need to kind of figure out what that looks like. And we haven't quite, worked those details out yet. But one of the things I want to do now is to reach out to you all to see, are any of you all are any of you willing to be volunteers for that kickoff event? Because we need some extra hands for that event. So if you do, you can raise your hand, you can put in the chat, you can reach out to me by email and so forth. And we'll keep on working from there. So Amy, Susan, anything I'm missing?
No, I don't think you're missing anything, but I'm happy to report that even though that email just went out today, like literally a couple hours ago, We already have 2 people who've taken our pledge and registered plans for incorporating climate change. One from a private school and one from the University of Maryland. So
Great.
that's already like, and
Yeah.
we have a plan to do at least 2 to 3, no, probably 3 to 4 more email rounds with different
Right.
information, including an announcement about Mary Kay helping us. Hopefully at some point, the proclamation for Climate Education Week. We're going to include one that advertises that they can win a visit from Secretary McElwain. We are also going to have a little, like some marketing collateral and a little board with a QR code at the Maryland Association of Environmental and Outdoor Educators Conference in February, where teachers will be, and they'll be able to just literally scan the QR code and register. So that's, you know, giving them another avenue to you know, incorporate climate change. So we got hand up. Susan?
And Mary Kay said, we drafted a op-ed for her. Her whole approach to this is going to be through health and wellness, and how climate change impacts health, and what we can do as individuals to shrink our carbon footprint and make the world a healthier place. So that's kind of going to be her focus, and she can lead things. She's also promised to do a visit probably with the chair of the commission,
Possibly.
Secretary McElwain. And on an op-ed, Jody writes press releases for us still. Thank you, Jody.
Yeah.
And what else do I want to tell you? I think I lost it, but check out her meditation videos. I sent you the link. They're
Oh, yeah?
great.
You put those in the chat?
Yeah, they're great.
Okay. And then also when you talk about health, it's not even just physical health, but it's also mental health. And that's something that she talked about a lot, because she also works with students, was an anxiety group. I think anxiety is part of it. And we're seeing a lot more of that with the younger generations. There are actually the national reports going on right now that this younger generation is really going through a lot of, you know, some challenging mental issues. So, and climate change is not helping, you know, so that's why we want to make sure we kind of make this connection. There are still some good things going on that people are doing. Getting out in the environment is still a good thing for the body and for the mind. And so integrating all these things together is something that she's going to be kind of lobbying for this week. Jennifer, I know she had a question. I don't know if she's still on, but I think she had her hand raised at one
I
point.
think Tristan had her hand up for a
Kristen
I'm
while.
had her
sorry,
hand up
Tristan.
too, yeah.
Sorry about that. I missed you.
That's okay. I was on the planning team last year. I guess somehow I got left out this year. I would love to continue to help this year
Okay.
if there is room for me.
You-
And I also wanted to share, knowing that we had the declaration in the works, I had my fingers crossed it was going to get passed. The Department of Natural Resources Conservation Education Matrix team holds an annual professional development. And I made sure that this year our professional development is happening during Climate Education Week. And so climate will be our theme, and we're very excited to be participating and promoting again this year.
Great job, Tristan.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. Can you fill out the form?
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, once I get the link, I'm happy to fill out the form.
And
Yeah,
that's
well, you
the
know
key,
what?
because
We'll have to send you all the link.
Right.
That's what I was
Put it
going
in
to
chat.
tell you. This is what I was going to tell you. I almost forgot. I got an email from another commissioner today. She's a governor's appointed. She knew Robin, I think her last name is McGill. She's a health expert on the commission. So, no, Gilden, I think that's her name, Robin Gilden. She said, I got this from somebody else at the university, and you know, why aren't I on the list? And so, yeah, so now we're getting like the commission involved, but not directly. They're just learning about it. We were going to talk to them. Amy and Jabari were going to bring the subject up at the steering committee meeting, but they unfortunately moved it to December 21st, though. It's way after this meeting.
I still have
Anyway.
it on the list to bring up, but it's, right before the holidays. So
Yeah. Anyway, Robin wants to be involved, and she said that they have a similar group to ECO over at the University of Maryland. I guess she's in the School of Public Health or something, and so I'll find out more. But I asked her if she might want to collaborate, with our group, and she said yes. So whoever can think of connections, we're going to need to do more of that. The more sophisticated we become.
Absolutely.
that
Excellent.
is a great segue into the next agenda item, which is ECO membership vacancies. We have quite a few vacancies on our, of organizations that are supposed to have members on the committee. And we were hoping to put those out to see if anybody has any recommendations or thoughts of someone we could reach out to and contact at these organizations or other organizations that you think might be a good addition to the committee. So the three organizations where we have vacancies are the Maryland State Department of Education, which I think is a huge one, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Health. Oh, Tristan raised her hand.
So if anyone was here when Kirsten Jackson was part of MSDE, she was the environmental literacy specialist. She's now moved on. However, they just refilled that role. The woman who took her place, her first name is Peyton. I'm happy to reach out to her. I met her last week. I'm totally blanking on her last name. Oh, Peyton Hesse, Hesse. Anyway, that might be good for her since she's relatively new to jump in there and fill that role again.
And that sounds like a really good idea to have an environmental literacy specialist work with the committee. Peyton Hesse, yeah. And then does anybody have any recommendations for Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, or the Maryland State Department of Education, which to me is the biggest hole we've got. We're trying to work on education programs, but we don't have anybody from DOE on the list. So I don't have any relationships with folks at either of those organizations, but I would love to hear if anybody on the call does or has any suggestions. Susan?
If nobody has a suggestion, I would just suggest that you and Jabari write to the director of communications there.
That'll be our backup plan. Yeah. Okay.
Did you say with
I know
DOE?
someone who works in agriculture education, but they don't work at Department of Ag.
Oh,
Well, that's interesting. Where do they work?
They work for MAFE, the Maryland Association for Environmental or Agriculture Foundation, I think it is, or Agriculture Educate. I don't know what their acronym stands for.
Yeah. Well, that's
Do you have a comment also?
If
What did
it's
you say?
MAFE, it's the Maryland Ag Ed Foundation.
yep. Which might be an interesting group to engage with as well. Maybe not necessarily as a member of the committee, but definitely for environmental literacy and incorporating climate change. We should probably reach out to them about Climate Change Week.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean they have education programs. They have their truck their trailer truck that goes around the state as well. So it's another form of outreach if that maybe they're already including it, but it'd be great to know how or connect them with our work.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So without any other suggestions for those three agencies, feel free if you kind of noodle on it between now and our next meeting and we kind of get a plan together. I think that would be great. If there's any names that pop up, email Susan, Jabari, or I. We would love to hear it. And we can circle back to this at our next meeting, which, because we're coming up to the top of the hour, I'm going to jump to that on our schedule. I'm not going to talk about the work plan. We'll push that up in the agenda next time. But before we close out today, we need to schedule meetings for 2024. And right now we're doing meetings every other month for a duration of 60 minutes. And we'd be starting in February. I want to see by a show of hands, thumbs up, I don't know, whatever. Is that still good? Does anybody have any recommendations to change that cadence or the length of the meetings? Let's start with that. Oh, Tristan, thanks. Got the MDA. Yep, Jennifer.
You're muted.
I don't know if there's some sort of description for what this committee is supposed to accomplish, or a welcome kit for people who are joining it, but it may be something to think about for when people come on board, or if you're looking for new people now, to have some sort of, mission statement and position description for what it means to be a member of this group.
That's a great idea.
Susan, you're muted.
Yeah, we keep trying to have a session where we can talk about things like that, but the truth is we just don't have enough people helping. So they do get a letter when they're appointed with a certain amount of information, and we just expect to have initial conversations and things like that, because everybody's a little bit different too. What our working group does is dependent on each person's skill in the working group and where they work, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to put a general thing together other than the appointment letter, which it gives them general information. I mean, this has come up many times, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be happy to try and be helpful because I didn't, as a new member, for example, I didn't really get the cadence of like the fact that there would be recommendations voted on at the end, and that if we didn't get it started early, that they would not be voted on, or, that once they were teed up, there was no chance to really have amendments unless you had those teed up in advance. And I didn't really understand that. And I think that it would have been helpful.
You mean as a member of the big commission?
Well, I mean, this group here had three things that we brought to the commission, and one of them didn't pass, and the second one had all of its money stripped from it. So we didn't succeed as much as we wanted to succeed. So I think, though, had we understood at the get-go, more of how quickly we need to get our stuff in and what, what we would need to put in place, that maybe we could have gotten our things passed this year.
Well,
I can do that. No, I think we can put something together that's general enough, but still gives, to give folks an idea about the expectations of commitment of time, right? So it's a 1 hour meeting every other month, plus support, either coordinating with organizations or coordinating or, volunteering your time or talent, or the talent you have access to, your resources, to our work plan items.
And recommending speakers,
things like that. So, I think we can definitely, probably put together a one sheet thing.
Okay. But I wish we could get a volunteer to do that, because it always falls to me. Honestly, I'm to the breaking point with working groups of the commission.
No, I think this doesn't have to fall to you.
Yeah, no, I think this should be something easily for all of us to kind of work to, together and put something together. Like you said, Amy, a one pager shouldn't be too much. And honestly, we could be the work group once again to set the example and the template for possibly other work groups to do the same thing with their, so I like the idea.
I don't know about that. People, they're very finicky about their own working groups and how they do things.
Well, that's fine. I mean, but again, we'll have ours. And if somebody else wants to, mimic that, but change their information, I think that should be okay. But yeah, I think we should at least do that going forward. That's a good idea. Because there were some things I had to learn too throughout the process about the recommendations and how this process works as well. So I agree. I think it'll be a good idea for those members coming in just to kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. Okay.
So does anybody want to change the time?
Oh yeah, duration and frequency. Yes.
Yeah. Does anybody want to do that?
No change for Astrid. I'm fine with it. Do we think we need more time?
So I know,
I mean, the problem is we don't get a lot of work done at these meetings. We're doing it right now, which is awesome. But
I saw one recommendation on the agenda. I think maybe our agenda was to look at possibly extending it to an hour and a half.
mhm.
This may sound crazy, but what about an hour, 15 minutes? Is that, 15 minutes sometimes will help a little bit more. 3 to 4:15.
Hey, look, 15 minutes is 15 minutes. We usually run out of time for public comment. So
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
good with that. We're getting thumbs up all the way around. And
Is anybody against it?
Tristan has her hand up.
Okay.
And before we close, so I wanted to thank Anthony, because Anthony Burrs behind the scene. He's the one that posts all the commission recordings that we do. That it's to the YouTube channel, the commission's YouTube channel. So thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah.
Thanks, Anthony. Tristan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I put my hand down instead of unmuting myself. I was just gonna say, as far as the length of time in our meetings, I don't exactly what you said, Amy. I don't feel like we get a lot of work done. It's usually a lot of just presenting of information, and we're like, okay, great, we love it. Don't have
Right.
time to move on with anything. So I definitely think longer. Jabari, I appreciate your 15-minute suggestion. I'm gonna vote for the full 30.
Okay. Well, should we do a vote on both? What do y'all think?
All right.
Go
So how
ahead.
about everybody in chat put in whether you prefer 15 or 30, and
Extra minutes, you mean?
yeah, extra
Beyond
minutes.
the
And we're
hour?
going to do Thursdays. We'll stay with the date because everybody's already used to that, I think. So I've got 3:30s.
Wow.
Either way, that's 4. I think we're good for 30. There you
Okay,
go.
that's even better. I was just
Yep.
trying to, be mindful of thinking 15 minutes was going to, but hey, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Well, and I think that that's great because what we can do is in the agenda, like we talked about, talking about the recommendations and talking about work plan items, we can make those working times. Like we can
Yes.
reserve a good 30 minutes to work on those and advance them. And check on action items and things like that. So like at the next meeting, I'm going to circle back and ask about the very specific parts of the public education program that we would want to include in an RFI. And we need to get that moving.
Right.
So maybe Susan, can you get us an example of an RFI so that we can write it and you don't have to? We just need an example of one if you've done one before.
I'll look.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll look. I'm not sure I can find one, but we do. It is dependent on what we're gonna need, what we want, our wish list.
Right. Okay. Well, we're over 2 minutes. So very productive meeting today.
Yep.
Susan, you want to put them on our calendars for next year, every other every other month at
Well,
hour and a half.
Ashford asked, it's still Thursdays or
Yeah,
Yeah, we said Thursday. Which Thursday was it? Second Thursday? Is that what we decided?
I don't know that it's gonna be exactly doable to keep it constant.
Okay.
What's
All right,
this
well-
fun fact? Oh, Maryland's EVs registered in the state. Yeah.
Hmm.
Happy
Good
holidays.
to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look at that spike in EVs. That's awesome.
Mhm,
Not
it
enough,
is.
but still awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, we'll get meetings. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone.
Yes. Happy
Put your
holidays,
kneecap
everybody.
on for a couple of these items, and we will be putting meetings on your calendar.
Take care, everybody.
Well,
Happy holidays.
happy holidays.